Alright, what's good, YouTube? We're back for another reaction video. I'm with my dog, Manny. Say what's up.
What's up, YouTube?
Alright, we're gonna be reacting to Llama Art School Lockdown. Or we're gonna be reacting to a lot of stories, honestly. I'm just reading the title of this one right now. It's School Lockdown Stories Animated. Alright, Manny, you ready?
Let's get it.
It was a typical boring day in calculus, only it was Friday, 7th period, meaning the week was almost over and spring break would finally be upon us, so everybody was getting antsy in their seats, I could tell. We didn't have a test that day like a lot of my friends did with their other teachers, so our teacher in the middle of class just decided to start playing games with us on Sporkle.com. He was a very laid-back teacher like that. As we were doing some brand logo quiz on Sporkle, I remember the exact moment it happened. Right after my friend answered a question, I remember the exact answer too, Adidas. The dean's voice came through the loudspeaker. He sounded panicked and frantic as he told all the teachers this was not a drill and to go into lockdown.
Dude, what?
I actually got the chills, and I got goosebumps on my arms as our usually laid-back teacher too seemed panicked as he ran to turn off the lights and ushered us to the back corner of the room.
Tell me that teacher doesn't look like Matthew.
We all sat in silence for about 2 minutes, and then the usual buzzing that came from a panel in the back of the room ceased, indicating that the school must have cut all the power. We all looked at each other, realizing this must be serious. A few more minutes of waiting later, we heard a man screaming at the top of his lungs coming down the hallway. 2 girls in the class actually started crying, which made all of us even more scared. As the screaming got closer to the classroom, the lunatic-sounding man started banging on the lockers while screaming, "I'll kill all of you."
No.
It was at that moment that I started to fear for my life. My teacher shushed us as we all looked at each other to see our peers' reactions. The banging then moved from the lockers to our classroom door.
Dude, what?
And that's when one of the crying girls screamed no. The banging on the door only grew worse as the man started screaming.
Yo, that nigga's ugly.
Bro, he's ugly as fuck.
2 of the girls in the class were crying out loud now. It felt like an eternity that the man was pounding at the door. But eventually, he finally continued down the hallway, screaming like a mentally insane
the door
person
was locked
until we could not hear him anymore.
Imagine he never locked the door.
I'd say 10 minutes later, though it felt like half an hour given the situation, the dean came back on the loudspeaker explaining the situation, which was surprising for him to do. He explained that some apparently mentally unstable person entered the building and assaulted the woman sitting at the front desk, causing her to flee the building screaming, and staff wasn't sure if the man was armed or not. Now this was before the school had cameras or could afford proper security, so the school was wide open to something like this happening. The staff had done a sweep of all the hallways and classrooms and couldn't find him, so the dean instructed the teachers to resume teaching but to keep all the doors locked, and to not let any students leave for any reasons. The most disturbing part, however, is that one of the janitors working the night shift found the man sleeping in one of the storage closets near the back end of the school, and according to rumors that were spread by my peers, sticking out of his pocket was a .44 Magnum.
Dumbass.
The janitor must have done something stupid to wake him up, for example leaving the closet door open, because by the time a police officer could arrive on the scene, the man was gone. My entire class, as far as I know, to this day, has no idea if this man was ever found, but I like to think that right now, he's being given the proper help that he needs.
Dude, that's fucking scary.
What the fuck, bruh? Alright, so right now we're in our second video. It's called Home Invasion Horror Story Animated. We're still with Manny. What's up, bro?
What's good, YouTube?
The first video was retarded as fuck. So let's just get into this. Hopefully, I can actually get scared because I'm home alone. It's dark as fuck and I'm cold.
It was a cold, foggy evening when I contacted a close friend of mine to stay at my place for the night. Both of us were only 10 years old at the time, and my parents were often at work until midnight, so I was usually alone with nothing to do except watching a television show or reading a book.
Dude, 1983.
My friend Alex had agreed to come over and brought a game of Monopoly to pass him the time. I also asked if he was interested in going to explore an abandoned subway station 3 miles away. He seemed excited at first, so we planned to go on the trip in the morning. I remembered that the subway dated back to the mid-1920s and became abandoned in 1932 after the market crash in 1929. I was very fascinated about its history, but never got the chance to go inside after my parents had warned me not to enter. As I quietly slept in my bed, I heard what sounded like a gunshot coming from the forest behind the house. Both of us woke up, frightened after what we had heard, and I told my friend not to worry, as hunters tend to go into the forest on frequent occasions, but when I checked the time, it was 11:39 p.m. This seemed very unusual, as hunters only came into the forest between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. I looked at Alex and decided to get out of my bed, intending to look through the window and spot for anyone in the forest. The darkness clouded my vision, so I was unable to see anyone in the forest. I turned around and looked at Alex again, when suddenly I heard the front door squeak open. Chills went down my spine.
Bruh.
Both of us quietly moved to the bathroom, locked the door, and kept the
Dude,
light
what
off.
the fuck?
It was the only safe place in the house. Both of us were terrified as we desperately tried to keep as calm as we could.
They don't got a phone?
We heard footsteps
You were home
getting
alone?
louder and louder
Yeah,
until
you
they
don't have a
stopped in
phone?
front of the bathroom door.
Dude,
And then this is when the
1983.
most terrifying sound forced my heart to almost burst.
Nigga, the only phone was the house phone.
Both of us screamed as the person chopped the door to pieces. It was pitch black inside the room,
What?
making it hard to find the vent, and by the time I spotted the vent, the person behind the door had made a hole big enough for us to see him.
Here's Johnny.
The man adorned black leather and was wearing a plague doctor mask. I scurried back to the vent, but it was too high above the floor for us to reach it, so Alex told me to go first because he was the strongest. He lifted me up on his shoulders, allowing me to open the vent and crawl inside. When I looked at the door again, the man had managed to fit his arm through the hole and reached for the lock. I quickly grabbed Alex's hand, but struggled to pull him up into the vent.
Nah, bruh.
I shouted, and began going after him. I pursued the figure until I was led to the abandoned
Hey.
subway deep within the
Never let
forest.
your homies down.
It was
am I right,
chilly
Manny?
and foggy, meaning that I
Yeah,
could
for
only see
real.
objects
This man's
within
a
a
real
range
one.
of 5
He's
or
a
6
ride or die.
yards. Inside the subway was a pool of freezing cold water. It was so dark that I couldn't see anything. I had to rely on listening to the screams from Alex and track the source. As I slowly walked through the subway, I was now struggling to breathe under the intense stress and fear of the situation. I called, but there was no response. I continued walking through the water until the exit was no longer visible. I was now experiencing a massive panic attack. I had lost track of Alex, and I had no idea where I was or how to get out. Where are you, Alex?
No. No. What the fuck?
Dude, what?
What the fuck?
I was 26 years old, and I was unemployed. Feeling unfulfilled by the monotony of a job life, I decided I would try my hand at working from home. So my days and nights comprised me of surfing the internet for any jobs I could get. I was a big procrastinator, so more often than not I'd stray away and waste time doing other things.
Hey, is that
One day,
PewDiePie?
I came across talk about the deep
My
web
name
while
is
on Reddit.
PewDiePie.
I felt amused by the people talking about it as if it was something so scary, and decided I'd look into it. It was stupid of me to go on it in the first place, but I made it even sillier by deciding to check it out late at night. It was about 2 a.m. and I came across a website where you could chat with someone anonymously. The person I got was a woman. She was in her early 20s and very pretty. She sat with her head in her hands, looking playful into the webcam while batting her eyes. I had no desire to turn my camera on and started our chat, thinking that while I didn't come across anything scary, I could befriend this pretty girl. It sounded like a better deal anyway. She told me to turn the camera on, but I ignored that request and tried to get her to talk. She finally did after some prodding, but I noticed how guarded she was. I also noticed how after every message I sent, her eyes would look off camera, either to her side or somewhere behind her computer. After a while, it started getting annoying, so I asked her if someone else was there with her.
I want to see you first.
she said. Up until now, I'd been chatting while she'd answered my questions verbally. I'm not that curious,
Don't be scared.
she said, laughing, this time looking behind the laptop again and making a face that seemed to indicate she was laughing at my expense, with someone else. This is getting boring. It feels like I'm not just talking to you.
That's because you're not. You're talking to all of us.
The
What
fuck?
else is there?
Turn your
Oh,
camera
what
on.
the fuck?
Is this a joke?
Turn it on.
Okay, I'll be leaving now.
Turn on the camera.
Her laughter was almost piercing by now. There was nothing humorous about the situation, yet she threw her head back with riotous
Fuck?
laughter. I'd had enough and moved the
Dude,
cursor
what?
over to turn the chat box off when I saw the cursor had jammed. The only thing that was working was the chat box, and I still had access to the keyboard.
Turn the camera on, sweetie.
Her gumdrop-filled voice was louder than before, and I moved my gaze up to see her smiling toothfully at the camera. Her face still beautiful, but the smile completely fake. My computer's crashed. I can't see the screen. Sorry. I lied. I didn't want her to know I had no option but to chat. Her screen flashed before going blank. There was nothing there but a black screen.
The fuck?
I felt relieved, thinking that at least I didn't need to talk to her while I tried to figure out what happened to
Bro,
the
I'm about to
screen.
get another ad, bro.
Just then,
Open the damn camera, you...
Yo!
the aggressiveness
Yo, she's mad.
Now, the fact that I couldn't see her face while she typed this made me feel nervous. I didn't dare reply back, but then the cursor moved. I watched shell-shocked as the cursor twirled around the screen.
Open the camera now.
Yo,
I
why
still
is she so
didn't make a
forceful,
move.
yo?
There was no way anything good would be waiting
She
for
probably
me
like
if
it
I
like
did
that.
what she asked. The screen began flickering, as if a virus was causing the computer to writhe in agony.
Do you want me to find you?
My heart raced. Could it be possible she knew where I was? I started typing. Please stop bothering me.
Then turn on the fucking camera.
Yo, what the fuck's
By
wrong
this
with this
point, I thought
bitch?
she was some kind of sadist who got her kicks by scaring unassuming people in chat rooms. So I obliged and turned the webcam on.
Bruh, he
I
folded.
saw my frightened face staring into the screen. Judging by my face, my attempts at looking
Yeah,
tough
he's
were
definitely a
painfully
Chad.
unsuccessful. I
Fucking
asked around
fold.
for the girl looking straight into the camera, telling her I did what she wanted and to stop hacking into my computer. There were several seconds of silence. I kept my stare directed to the little box that showed her camera feed, but it was pitch black. I motioned into the camera in confusion, feeling as if she was messing with me now. Then I saw another message.
Look here.
After a few seconds of staring at those words, I looked back at her camera, but my computer instantly malfunctioned, and I received another message.
Look here. Don't look up.
The chat was filled with nonsensical gibberish. She typed with such ferocious speed,
Yo.
my screen whirled away with her constant messages. I couldn't understand what was going on, but I didn't look up. My patience ran thin, and I wrote back, "What is this supposed to mean?" Her response came. I read only the letters in bold and shuddered. I looked back into her webcam and I fell back into my chair, my eyes widening. She was back there, only her face
what the
looked
fuck?
completely demented. She had a savage expression, devoid of emotion, but her eyes were almost popping out of their sockets, and she was huffing as if she had extreme amounts of pent-up rage. The way she looked directly into the camera made me feel she despised me with all of her being. There was no amusement there anymore. Her camera went blank again. Then the chat popped up. My heart stopped again. For a split second, there had been the same blackness, only for the lights to come back on. She wasn't alone anymore. There was a man next to her with a black mask on. He made no movements other than look into the camera like the girl. The girl's neck creeped to her side.
What
It
the
looked like
fuck?
it was
Yo,
closing
my
in
heart
on me.
dropped, nigga.
And then the lights went out again. The chat resumed. This time, I screamed in fright
Dude,
and fell off my
what?
chair. There was another man with them now. He was standing next to the girl with the original one on the other side.
What the fuck?
This man had the same mask on, but his hands were grasping the girl's shoulders. Even with the subpar quality of the webcam, I could see the force with which the man dug his hands into the girl. It looked like he could rip her in two. The girl, however, had a huge grin on her face. Her eyes were mad with glee, or so it looked. Her teeth were perfectly lined up as her mouth spread into that toothy grin, but I could see she was in pain. Even with the smallest sign of her smile fading, the man clenched his hands even tighter than before, which made her smile even wider. All three of them were shaking, as if it was extremely cold where they were. After a couple seconds, I realized they were shuddering, like trying to hold back laughter.
What are you laughing at?
I yelled into the screen. They didn't answer, and continued to tremor with concealed hilarity.
What is so damn funny?
I bellowed. They stopped shaking. Within a couple seconds, the screen went black again. When it turned back on, the man no longer grasped the girl's shoulder.
Dude, what the
She smiled.
fuck?
All three pointed into the camera. Upon a closer look, I understood that they weren't pointing at me. They were pointing
Oh my
behind
god, no
Not even
way.
gonna
me. To look back, I could see myself in the webcam.
No.
There was someone peeking from behind me.
Bro, low-key, I would
There
take
was
off my
another
headset.
man in a mask. And according to
No,
what I
I'll
saw on
literally
my
look at the
webcam,
camera, I'll
this was
align
the
where to like punch, and I'll literally start fading.
I turned around quickly, but saw nothing where I had seen him in the
The
webcam.
fuck?
I turned back towards the screen and, to my bewilderment, saw a third man in the girl's chat box.
What the fuck?
It was the same man I had just seen standing in
Manny.
my room.
Dude,
Now,
this is
all three
insane.
had their hands on the girl and were gripping tight. The girl wasn't laughing anymore. She had a look of utter devastation. A tear was dropping from her eye. But it wasn't just a tear. It was blood trickling down her
What
eye
the-
socket.
Oh
She
yeah,
had
because they were
mouthed the
strangling
words,
her,
"Help
that's why.
me," and the next second she screamed as if her lungs were being ripped off as the screen went black. I immediately got up and pulled the plug out of my computer and backed out of the room. For a couple seconds, I swear I heard her screams even though the computer was unplugged.
go.
The browser
Dude, I've been on the deep web, bro. It's never been that bad. Like that was insane. Like I've been there before, and like I've seen like rooms they can go into and like that like they have shit like that. But dude, nothing like that, bro.
That was like a FaceTime, like for PC type stuff.
Yeah, like I've been in like in the dark web where like you could do chats and shit like text, but like no face cam, fuck scam. What the fuck? No face cam or nothing like that. It's just straight text. You feel me?
Yeah. But is there like videos or is it just like text?
There's videos and shit. I mean, I remember one time, one of my friends showed me a video. Fucking girl was getting her shit like her head chopped off and shit, like on the deep web. Yeah, he like screen recorded it and then showed me it. That shit was crazy.
What the hell?
Yeah.
All right, Manny, what you gotta say to the YouTube?
Hey, bro, I'm gonna need y'all to like, subscribe. You feel me? Check out my dog last video. You feel me? If you haven't checked it out.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's up. All right, boys.
Yeah, and
We're out for another video. Peace.